What if the reason your salon content isn't attracting clients has nothing to do with your hair skills, but everything to do with your photography skills? Today, we're diving into one of the biggest missed opportunities in salon marketing, the before and after photos, right? The ones that currently are failing to stop the scroll, failing to build trust, failing to convert viewers into paying clients. If you've ever felt like your work deserves more attention online, this episode could completely change the way you create content. Welcome to the Salon Scoop, the podcast that helps salon owners and salon professionals grow their business, boost their brand, and stay inspired. From salon marketing and social media to leadership and growth, we uncover the strategies and stories that move the industry forward. If you love learning, growing, and are serious about leveling up your salon business and brand, you've just found your new go-to podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Salon Scoop, everyone. I'm your host, Scott Moon. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of the most powerful and misunderstood marketing tools in the beauty industry, and that's the before and after photos. They are the single most shared, most saved, most screenshotted content type that a salon or stylist can produce, right? When they are done well, they outperform most other post types. But when they're done poorly, and the truth is most of them are done poorly, they read as proof that the work is fine, right? The work is okay, but it's not memorable. Here's the truth. Incredible hair doesn't automatically create incredible content. Right? In today's digital world, your photos are often your first consultation before a client ever reaches out. We've reviewed thousands of these posts across our salon clients, stylists, across social media. The work is almost never the problem. It's the photo that's the problem. But the good news is the photo is almost always solvable in a single afternoon. And we're going to break down exactly how to fix it. All right, in this episode, we're breaking down the psychology behind photos that actually convert viewers into bookings, some of the small adjustments that you can make. We'll talk about lighting and consistency and how they matter more than expensive equipment or editing apps. We'll talk about the biggest mistakes that salon professionals are currently making with before and after photos and how to fix them immediately in this episode. We're also going to talk about how to create captions, right? And content that doesn't just get likes, but actually generates DMs, consultations, and new clients. So if you're tired of posting your beautiful work that nobody seems to notice, this episode is exactly for you. Let's start by talking about the psychology of the reveal, right? The after. And before we get to lighting, we want to understand that the before and after is actually selling. Okay, but it's not selling hair, it's selling a transformation. And if we think about that, transformation is an emotional response, not a visual one. It's really, really critical to wrap your head around that. And that emotional response triggers when three things are true. How many? Three. Firstly, the viewer can clearly see what the starting point was. Then the viewer can imagine themselves in that starting point, right? There's that emotional part. They can see themselves there. They feel themselves there. And then thirdly, the change feels significant and believable. And that's critical. If your before picture looks like a mugshot and your after is heavily filtered and edited, people can see that, and you've broken that third rule of it feeling believable. That trust is gone, and the viewer assumes that the magic was actually in your camera, not in your hands and in your chair, right? So if they don't trust the result, then everything collapses from there. So the best hair transformation before and after photos are honest. The lighting matches in the before and the after. The angle matches. The expression matches. The only thing that should change is the hair. So let's delve in and talk about that lighting a little bit. Right? 80% of the difference between a forgettable post and a save and share post is the lighting. It really helps to bring forth, right, the quality of what you have delivered. Here are 3 rules when it comes to lighting that we want to make sure that you take away. First is pick one light source and stick with it. You don't want to mix overhead salon lighting with natural window lighting, ring light with backlight. You need to have consistency in your lighting. Otherwise, again, it looks like it's off. It looks maybe fake. Secondly, you want to have frontal light. That's important, right? Not light that's kind of behind or over top of their head. You want the light to be coming from in front of the face, slightly above eye level, ideally. So you have to determine if you have windows that allow you to do this, or if you need to be using a ring light somewhere specific in your salon, or even close to your chair, right? But you want to make sure that that light source is coming from really just in front of you, a little bit above eye level. I have a ring light that I use here for these podcasts. It's literally about a foot above my head, pointing straight down at me to make sure there's a nice even glow and reflection. Thirdly, you need to shoot the before and after photos in the exact same spot. That way the lighting is going to match, right? So the same chair, the same backdrop, the same distance, same time of day. We're going to get into this a little bit more. Time of day is tricky, obviously, depending on how long and when your transformation started. And that's where sometimes the ring light provides you that consistency. So let's talk about framing and composition, because this again relates to that consistency. The most common framing mistake that we tend to see is shooting the before picture too tight, like just focused on the hair. And then the after photo is much broader, where we see the hair and maybe the torso. The brain interprets that in a weird way. Okay, not just because the work, looks better or different. It just looks off. And our brain is trained to look for consistency, comparables. So here's our standards that we recommend, okay, when it comes to your framing and how you set up the composition. The before shot should be head and shoulders. Okay, you want to be at about a 3/4 angle, so not necessarily dead on, but tilt your camera slightly. Okay, about 3/4 angle. You want the customer, to have a neutral expression. You don't want them to be smiling in the before picture because they shouldn't be happy. The hair should be down naturally and untouched. The best practice is take it the moment that they sit in the chair, before the cape even goes on. Okay, first thing. Second aspect is the process, right? You want to capture some images or video from the in-between stages. One mid-service shot with maybe the foils, scissors mid-cut, color processing, something along those lines. It earns trust because it shows that there was actually something going on in the middle, and it'll give you an opportunity in the captions to describe with your expertise what you had to do to achieve the result. And then finally, the after shot, you want to have the exact same framing as the before shot. Same head and shoulders, the same 3/4 angle with your camera, but now the hair is styled and there is a slight smile from your client. They don't need to be, showing off all their pearly whites teeth, but they should show that they're happy with the look. Okay. Then if you want, you could take a second after photo that maybe encompasses a little bit more, something different. If you want to zoom in on something specific to the hair, or have a wider angle shot, that's okay. But you got to make sure that you have that exact shot of the before and the after, same framing. But what makes for a nice post is kind of having a 4-image carousel if it's photos, right? So you have the before photo, you have a mid photo, like the process, you have the after photo, and you might have a second after photo that's either a nice close up of the work or even potentially a wider full frame image. Those are going to outperform those single, just like split screen, one versus two images that we've seen. They actually outperform 3-1 based on our internal data on the number of saves and shares that posts are getting. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the psychology of that before photo. Sometimes it's a little challenging, whether it's the stylist that's in their head that are shy to take it because they think that the client doesn't want it or it's uncomfortable. It might feel off. It might feel rude to just at the start of your appointment be asking for a photo. They've just walked in. They might be feeling self-conscious because their hair is not their best state. The lighting is whatever it is. Asking them might feel awkward, but you have to build it into your consultation script. And here's a way that you can say it. I take a quick before photo on every transformation client. It's the only way that I can show you what we did at the end and how it compares. So again, we're not setting this up as, oh, can I take a before photo so that I can post it on my social media? This isn't about you. It's about them. With all of my clients, when I'm doing a transformation, I take a picture of the before so that I can clearly show you afterwards, right, that transition. And your customer, trust me, they're going to be curious and amazed, right, to see that before and after, because they'll forget pretty quickly if they just see the new amazing look that you've created. So if you say this, just matter of fact, confidently, this is what I do, all my transformations, almost no client is ever going to refuse that. And most love, like I said, seeing the transformation, right, that actually happens. Now, let's talk about the caption. So you've got your, right? Definitely at the end of your visit, you do want to ask permission to your guest if it's okay for you to post. So when you're taking those after photos, you're showing it to them, right? They're going to be like, oh my gosh, wow, I can't believe I'm so happy. This is amazing. That's your opportunity when they're in that happy moment to say, hey, do you mind if I post this on my social media, right? To showcase the transformation that we did today. I'll be happy to tag you. And again, when you just say it matter-of-factly, confidently, most clients, customers are going to say, sure, no problem. They're feeling excited and happy. So now here's what you do with your caption. Because remember, just the photos without a caption, it's just a postcard with no message on the back, right? The magic of the postcard is the message that someone shares with you about that moment. So the caption is going to do 3 things that the image cannot. How many? 3 things. The first, it's going to name the client's starting concern. What were they frustrated with? You need to explain that because it's different. Just looking at a picture, we don't necessarily know, but you can say, you know what, my client came in and she was tired of the monthly root touch-ups. This creates a connection with somebody who's reading it and might say, oh, I have that same concern. I have that same frustration. So you want to highlight that in the caption at the beginning. Secondly, you're going to describe what your technical choice was for the transformation. Right? Like, what did you decide to do and why? And the more specific you can be rather than super generic, it's going to elevate your expertise. Now, we don't recommend, you don't want to go into color formulation or whatnot because, clients don't understand that, nor do they care about that. But you want to say, we mapped out a plan with a hand-painted balayage with 2 depth levels that it's going to grow out softly over 6 months. Some level of detail to that extent makes you come across as an expert and a little bit of technical stuff that maybe the client doesn't understand, but says, oh, wow, like that sounds really impressive, right? You want to showcase your knowledge here. And then thirdly, you're going to want to close with a low friction call to action. Not just a, book now, click the link in my bio. Try something like, DM me the word balayage if you want, a similar grow out plan, or if you want to discuss, your challenges, your hair needs, something very soft that encourages conversation. If you're able to get people to DM you, that ends up converting way more than just writing, book now or click the link in my bio in your main caption. Because now you're turning it into a conversation, a one-on-one personalized conversation with that particular individual. All right, let's talk a little bit about format, right? The carousel versus the reel. I talked to you earlier about the 4-image carousel that you can do. Truthfully, they both can work, but they work for different audiences. Carousels are really powerful for saves. People like to save carousels because it's easy for them to just go and flip through again to see. So someone who's planning their next appointment in 3 weeks, they might save a carousel, right? The reels dominate for reach, getting eyeballs to watch, right? Because videos are the kings of social media right now. So a 6-second hair reveal with an interesting transition between the before and after and a nice, trending audio track can put your post in front of many more viewers. So they both have their purpose. And the reel is going to work slightly better if it's actually captured as video with a little bit of movement, as opposed to just using still photos and turning it into like a video, essentially like a slideshow with music. So rather than taking just those still photos, take a video and just do a slight pan, a slow pan of the before, and then same thing of the after. You don't want a lot of movement with it. It's got to stay short and sweet. But the truth is, you can try both, right? Do one as a carousel, do a different one as a reel, right? One client appointment each way. Or you can do it the same, right? You could post one as a carousel, same client, right? You could post one as a carousel, and you could also post it as a reel, right? So you're getting twice the content from one client. That's a great way to go about it as well. All right, as we wrap up, hopefully you're taking away a lot here. And please, if you're picking up some insights here, we drop these digital debrief episodes almost every 2 weeks. We have so much content out there about your marketing, about your business. Feel free to scroll through some of those to find additional episodes. You're going to get great nuggets, great information that can help you in your day-to-day work behind the chair, as a stylist, as a salon owner. A lot of our content is about the marketing aspect of growing your business, however you do that. All right, we want to close with 5 mistakes that you can be fixing this week or today, right? Common mistakes that we see. The first is mismatched lighting. I covered that earlier. That's the first thing to solve. Make sure that your lighting is consistent across all of your photos. Secondly, stop running filters on your photos, right? Or at the very least, if you are putting on a filter, make sure that you use the exact same filter on the before versus the after. You have to have identical. Otherwise, people are not going to trust the result. They're going to think that it has been touched up. Okay. Thirdly, in the before picture, the hair has to be just straight, flat, down, as is. We said before you even put the cape on. Okay. Whereas in the after photo, you want it to be styled as well. So even if you're focused on the color, you want to have a beautiful style and finish to that hair as well. It just looks better, and the viewer's brain is going to is going to naturally be drawn to that finished result. Fourth mistake is not having the client's face and expression in there. If you have just a body shot in the back of the head, it feels anonymous. Faces and emotions and expressions convert. It's the truth. Okay. Yes, you need to get permission, right? But use them. They make such an incredible difference. It's that emotional aspect that you get from it when you see a customer's eyes, you see their smile. It makes them seem real. And again, this is about transformation. This is about emotional connection. Finally, the fifth mistake that we see is not having a strong caption. Too often, people put their photos and then just have a very, very short, pumpkin spice balayage, or not pumpkin spice balayage, but, copper creation, just like a 2-word description of the color. That makes it really invisible to the algorithm, but it also is just unconvincing to the human being who's reading it. You're not connecting with them. You're not storytelling. You want to get them to connect with those emotions, the frustration that the customer was feeling with the before. You want to provide some technical expertise to showcase the fact that you are an expert in your craft. And then you want to have that soft call to action. Those are 5 things that you can fix today, right, to help you start maximizing the quality of your before and after photos and use them to drive actual business. Remember, the salons and salon professionals that are winning on social media aren't necessarily doing better hair. They're just doing a better job at showcasing the transformation through photos and videos. And if you stop and think about it, that's actually encouraging. Because most of what I talked about today doesn't require more talent, doesn't require more followers. It doesn't require more expensive equipment. It just requires a little bit more intention, consistency, and having a system. And I promise if you implement what we talked about today, you're going to jump ahead of 80% of what's being done out there on social media today in our industry. If there's one takeaway from today's episode, it's that your content should build trust before the client ever sits in your chair, right? Because if they're scrolling through your social media, you want them to feel that trust before they decide to book with you. Because great before and after photos don't just show hair, they tell a story that people can see themselves in. I hope this made sense to you, and I hope that you choose to share this episode with another salon professional out there that maybe has been struggling with social media, who wants to do better, who feels that their work is good, but they're just not getting the engagement or the reach online or the clients coming in. One small improvement in how they present their work could completely change their visibility online. And that's the scoop for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Salon Scoop podcast. This show is produced by Salon S.O.S, a digital marketing agency by industry professionals for industry professionals. If you want simple and affordable solutions for any of your salon marketing needs, such as websites, client loyalty, Google search rankings, social media, or more, come visit us at salonsos.ca or on Instagram at salon.s.o.s. If you want to hear more episodes like this and help us continue to bring the industry great content, it would mean so much to us if you would support us in one of the following ways. Either share this episode with one other industry professional and rate the show on Spotify or write us a quick review on Apple Music. We want to hear your feedback. If you have follow-up questions or ideas for future episodes, please reach out. DM us on Instagram at salonus.s.o.s or hit us up on our website again at salonsos.ca. Again, thanks so much for listening, Now go get your hustle on, keep smiling, and we'll catch you on our next episode.